All right, everyone, get ready because today we're taking a deep dive into Mira Network Coin, or Lumira as it's also known. We've gotten a ton of requests to cover this one, and I can definitely see why it's got everyone so intrigued. It's not every day that we see a cryptocurrency that claims to make mining accessible right from your phone.
Yeah, that's right. The idea of skipping that whole complicated and expensive hardware setup for mining, it's definitely got people talking and excited. And there's a lot of buzz around Lumira. Some people are even comparing it to Pi Network, which, as you know, gained huge popularity with its mobile mining approach.
Yeah, I've seen those Pi Network comparisons popping up all over the place. And honestly, it makes me a little bit skeptical. But before we jump ahead of ourselves, let's break down the fundamentals. What exactly is Mira Network Coin, and how does this whole mobile mining thing actually work?
So, at its core, Lumira is a new cryptocurrency that was designed specifically for mobile mining. And traditional mining, as you probably know, relies on super powerful computers. And it uses a ton of energy. Lumira's goal is to completely change that by using the processing power that's already in our smartphones, making mining accessible to basically anyone who has a phone.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing in theory. But I'm curious about the technical details. Is it really possible to mine crypto effectively just using a phone without totally destroying your battery and slowing down your phone?
That's a great question, and that's what makes this so interesting. The specifics of exactly how their algorithm works are still kind of secret, but the developers have emphasized that it's a very lightweight and energy-efficient design. From what we can gather so far, it's optimized to run in the background of your phone, using any extra processing power your phone has without really affecting performance or battery life.
Oh wow, that's relief. Nobody wants a phone that's overheating every time they try to mine crypto. What else should we know about the technical side of Lumira? We're going deep here, so give us all the details.
Well, one really important detail is that Lumira has a fixed total supply of 250 million tokens. That means that there's a hard limit on the number of coins that will ever exist, which we'll talk about later. It has some big implications for its potential value.
Okay, so limited supply. I'm starting to see a pattern here. But going back to the mining process for a second, how does that actually work on a phone? Do you just download an app and press go?
It's really straightforward, actually. You download the Mira Network app, which is available on both iOS and Android. You create an account, and you're pretty much good to go. You'll probably have to complete a KYC verification process, which stands for Know Your Customer. It's pretty standard practice these days in the crypto world. It helps prevent fraud and keeps things secure.
Yeah, KYC makes a lot of sense. Security is super important when it comes to anything financial, especially in the crypto space. So once you're signed up and verified, what then? How do you start actually mining these Lumira coins?
You'll see an option in the app to start a mining session. It's designed to be super easy to use, and the mining happens in the background without you having to do anything. You can literally just go about your day. You can check your email, scroll through social media, whatever you want, and the Lumira coins will be building up in your wallet.
Wow, so I can earn crypto while I'm walking my dog or waiting in line at the grocery store. This is starting to sound almost too good to be true.
There are a couple things to keep in mind. You'll need to open the app and check in every 24 hours to keep your mining session active. But it only takes a second. And just like with anything else on your phone, having a solid internet connection is important to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Okay, I got it. So it's not completely set it and forget it, but it's still pretty low maintenance. We've been talking about this whole mobile mining thing a lot. Is Lumira's approach unique? Or are there other cryptos out there doing the same thing?
That's a great question. Lumira isn't the first one to try mobile mining. Like we mentioned before, Pi Network gained a lot of popularity using a similar model. But Pi faced a lot of criticism for being too centralized and not having a clear plan for the future. Lumira's developers seem to be addressing those issues directly, though. They're emphasizing transparency and getting the community involved in their development process.
That's good to hear. I'm all for transparency and community involvement, especially in the crypto world, which can be kind of murky sometimes. So we've talked about how Lumira is easy to use and accessible, but the real question is, can it actually live up to its promises? What's the long-term potential of this project?
Now we're getting to the good stuff. Remember that limited supply we talked about? That's really important for understanding how much Lumira could be worth. As more people join the network and start mining, the rate at which new coins are created actually goes down. It's a built-in mechanism called halving, and it's designed to keep inflation under control. And, in theory, it should drive up the value of the coins that are already out there.
Okay, halving. Sounds a little technical. Can you explain that to me in a way that even a 5-year-old could understand?
Sure. Imagine you have a pizza, and you're sharing it with your friends. At first, everyone gets a really big slice, but as more and more friends show up, the slices get smaller and smaller. With Lumira, the pizza is the total supply of coins. And slices are the rewards for mining. So as more people join the network and start mining, the rewards get smaller, making each coin more valuable.
Oh, okay. I get it now. So the people who start mining early get the biggest slices. That's clever. But how does this halving actually work in real life? How often does it happen? And what kind of impact can we expect to see?
The exact details of Lumira's halving schedule haven't been released yet. But we do know that the rate at which new coins are being created will continue to go down as more people join the network. This gradual decrease in supply, combined with increase in demand, could theoretically cause the price to go up significantly over time.
So basically, scarcity creates value. But we've heard that before with other cryptocurrencies. What makes Lumira different? What's so special about how they're doing this halving thing?
What's really interesting here is that Lumira's halving mechanism isn't just about controlling inflation, it's also about encouraging people to join early on. Those who get in early and start mining right away will get the biggest rewards, while people who join later will have to work harder for less. It creates a powerful incentive for early adoption, which could really help the network grow quickly.
That's a really good point. It's not just about the technology itself, it's also about the psychology of the market and how incentives can shape people's behavior. I'm starting to see why there's so much hype around this.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, we're still in the very early stages of Lumira's development. As the network gets bigger and the halving process starts to kick in, we could see some pretty dramatic changes in its value and how it behaves in the market.
So are you saying there's a chance that early adopters could really benefit from this? I bet our listeners who are thinking about getting involved would love to hear that. But before we get too carried away with all the excitement, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. What are some of the potential risks and challenges with Lumira? And what should our listeners think about before they dive in?
That's a really important question, and one that we'll explore more in depth after a quick break. While the potential rewards of getting in early are definitely appealing, it's always important to be cautious with any investment, especially in the world of cryptocurrency, where things can change so fast.
Yep.
We'll break down all of those things and more when we come back.
Sounds good. We'll be back right after this. Okay, so we've talked about how Lumira has some really exciting potential. But like with any investment, especially in the crypto world, it's important to be careful. What are some of the potential risks or red flags that our listeners should know about before they jump in?
That's a great question. That's where the real deep dive begins. We've just scratched the surface. Now we have to look beyond the hype and see if this project can really last.
Okay, so viability. Where do we even start with that?
Well, I think the first thing to focus on is the team behind Mira Network. Who are these people? What have they done in the blockchain space before? Do they have a good track record of success?
Yeah, that's a really good point. A strong team with real experience can make or break a project. Where can people find that information? Is it buried somewhere in a white paper?
Their website is a good place to start. Look for detailed bios, not just vague descriptions. You can also check LinkedIn to see their professional backgrounds. And of course, their white paper should clearly lay out the team's vision and roadmap for Lumira's development.
Transparency is so important, especially in an industry that's had its share of, let's just say, less than transparent characters.
Exactly. Another crucial factor is community engagement. Is the Mira Network team actually talking to their community? Are they responding to questions and concerns? A strong and active community is a good sign. It shows that there's real support for the project.
I imagine social media is a good place to see how the community is interacting. Are there any other warning signs to look out for?
Security is absolutely essential. How is Mira Network protecting user data and funds? Have they gone through any independent security audits? You should be able to find the answers to these questions on their website or in their documentation.
Security audits. Yeah, that's a good one. I feel like people don't pay enough attention to those in the crypto world.
They're essential. And while we're talking about security, we can't forget about regulatory risks. The cryptocurrency landscape is constantly changing, with new regulations popping up all the time. It's important to research the regulations in your own area and understand how they might affect your involvement with Lumira.
Yeah, regulations can be a minefield. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and forget about the legal side of things.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about scalability. Can the Mira network handle a huge number of users and transactions without slowing down or becoming inefficient? This is really important for any cryptocurrency, especially one that wants to be as widely adopted as Lumira.
Right, because if the network gets bogged down, Transactions could take forever, and nobody wants that. Has the Mira Network team addressed scalability in their roadmap?
That's something you'll definitely want to look into. Have they mentioned any plans for things like Layer 2 solutions or other scaling technologies? These are technical details, but they can have a big impact on whether a cryptocurrency succeeds in the long run.
So we've covered the team, the community, security, regulations, scalability. It sounds like there's a lot to think about.
There is. And remember, this is just the beginning. We're learning new things about this project all the time as more information comes out.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. Okay, so we've gone over some of the potential risks and challenges, but we can't forget about the exciting possibilities. Besides just the price speculation and potential profits, what are some of the real-world applications of Lumira? What could make it a game changer?
That's where it gets really interesting. One of the most exciting things about Lumira is its potential for financial inclusion. Think about it. Millions of people all over the world don't have access to traditional banking services. Lumira, with its focus on mobile, could provide a way for these people to access financial services for the first time.
Wow, that's a really powerful idea. Empowering people through technology. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. And it's not just about access, it's also about control. Lumira could give people more control over their own money, so they wouldn't have to rely as much on banks and other traditional institutions.
So instead of going through banks, people could use Lumira to send money, make purchases, even invest.
That's right, and this opens up a whole world of possibilities for microtransactions, peer-to-peer lending, and other decentralized finance applications, which we call DeFi.
DeFi is such a buzzword these days.
Yeah.
But it's clear that it has the potential to really shake things up in the world of traditional finance.
Absolutely. And Lumira, with its ease of use and accessibility, could be a major player in this new DeFi landscape.
I'm noticing a pattern here. Accessibility seems to be a key theme with Lumira. It's not just about making mining accessible. It's about making financial tools and opportunities available to everyone, no matter who they are or where they live.
You're right. And that really shows the power of blockchain technology to democratize access and create a more level playing field.
It's exciting to think about the potential impact this could have globally, but let's bring it back to our listeners for a minute. We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details to the potential risks and rewards, and even the social impact of Lumira. What are the key takeaways here? What should our listeners be thinking about as they decide whether or not to get involved in this project?
I think the most important takeaway is that Lumira, while it has a lot of promise, is still a relatively new project in a field that's changing really quickly. There's always risk involved, and doing your research is absolutely essential.
So don't just jump in without thinking. Do your research, weigh the risks and rewards, and make a smart decision based on your own personal situation and financial goals.
Exactly. And remember, the crypto world is full of surprises. What we know today could be different tomorrow. So stay informed, stay curious, and never stop learning.
Great advice. Now, before we wrap things up, I have one last thought-provoking question for our listeners. One that wasn't directly addressed in the material we look at. It builds on what we've been talking about, but takes it in a slightly different direction. Are you ready?
Hit me with it.
So we've talked a lot about how Lumira could help with financial inclusion, but what about its environmental impact? You know, cryptocurrencies have gotten a lot of criticism for how much energy they use, especially the ones that use proof-of-work mining. So does Lumira, with its mobile mining approach, offer a more sustainable alternative?
That's a really important question, and it's one we should definitely consider. It's true that traditional proof-of-work mining, like what Bitcoin uses a ton of energy, but Lumira's mobile mining model is totally different.
So how does it compare when it comes to energy use? Is it actually a lot more eco-friendly?
Well, it could be, because Lumira takes advantage of the processing power that smartphones already have. It doesn't need those huge mining farms or all that electricity. But it's important to remember that even mobile devices use energy.
Right. They still need to be charged, and that electricity has to come from somewhere. So even if it's more efficient than traditional mining, it's not totally without impact.
You're absolutely right. How Lumira affects the environment will really depend on where the electricity to power those smartphones is coming from. If it's coming from renewable sources like solar or wind power, then yeah, the overall impact would be much lower.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about this technology itself. It's about the bigger picture of how we produce and consume energy. For our listeners who care about the environment, it's worth thinking about where their electricity comes from and how that might play into their decision about whether or not to mine Lumira.
Absolutely. And this actually brings up a bigger question about whether cryptocurrency projects have a responsibility to address their environmental impact. As the industry grows and matures, I think we'll see more of a focus on sustainability and developing mining methods that are better for the planet.
I'm glad to hear that the industry is moving in that direction. Now, before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about how important it is to stay informed. The crypto world is changing so fast, with new things happening all the time. How can our listeners keep up with everything that's going on and make sure they're making good decisions?
Yeah, it can definitely be overwhelming. My advice is to stick to reliable sources of information. There are some great crypto news websites, podcasts, and online communities that provide really insightful analysis. And of course, always do your own research before investing in anything.
Right. Don't just believe everything you read online.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to crypto.
Exactly. Think critically about the information you're seeing. Check multiple sources and look for analysis that's based on evidence, not just hyper speculation.
That's great advice. And of course, keep listening to The Deep Dive for more deep dives into the exciting world of cryptocurrency. We'll continue to explore the latest trends, the most promising projects, and the potential impact of this revolutionary technology.
We're always here to help you navigate the complicated and ever-changing world of crypto, one deep dive at a time.
Well, that brings us to the end of our exploration of Mira Network Coin, or Lumira. We covered a lot today, from the basics of mobile mining to the potential impact this project could have on society and the environment.
We talked about the potential rewards and the risks, the technical stuff, and how important it is to stay informed in a space that's evolving so rapidly.
I hope you found this deep dive helpful and interesting. As always, we encourage you to keep learning about this fascinating technology. It has the potential to change so much. Until next time, happy mining, everyone, and remember, stay curious.